Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. This is the Deep Dive. My name is Drew Creekmur. I'm the Director of Advisory Services here at Creekmur Wealth, and I'm joined as always by John Creekmur, our founder and senior wealth advisor. And John, we want to talk about a topic today that we're having more and more folks ask us about, and that's planning for paying for long-term care, for home health care, how you should go about doing that. Is it something you actually need to do or not? We've been hearing from a lot of folks around the country on this specific topic recently, so we wanted to dive into that a little bit, talk about this big picture, some of the trends we see occurring there, but then also talk about it from a financial planning perspective. But before we do that, John, how you doing? What's front of mind for you?
I'll tell you what, it's just been an interesting start to the year, Drew. I've really had a great time over the first couple of months of this year, just kind of resetting my own personal expectations and looking deeper on things that matter the most to me. And I've kind of been taking this mindset that everything that we do needs to start with our core beliefs. And so an example might be, I believe the earth is flat. So that'd be a silly core belief, right? But if that's what you hold to, that's your core belief. And then from there, kind of saying, hey, what are my core values tied to that core belief? But then I begin to set goals that allow me to live out my core values. And then I put an action plan in place. And so that would be the steps we need to take with our investments, take as far as with our protection, take as far as with our time and management, take with our health. And you bring all those action steps together. Well, then that allows you to realize goals that are based upon your values, which are totally founded upon your core beliefs. And Drew, I've talked to so many people looking at things. They walk through that well, but then all of a sudden, then they don't identify proper risk. And so, like for me, a couple of years ago, a lot of you all know that I had a health scare back 2 years ago, here, March the 5th. And well, I was not considering the risk of my health. And then what would happen if my health goes bad for me actually accomplishing my personal goals and accomplishing the things that are aligned with my core values. So I take a step back and actually re-engineer my nutrition, my exercise, and everything, my sleep, to make sure I was doing things properly. And Drew, we see a big risk with so many of our clients. We have a lot more conversations recently with this one huge risk, especially with our clients. They're really 45 to 75 years of age. This risk is lurking. It's going to be very damaging, even on a personal side, with a number of family members here recently.
Yeah, yeah, and it's one of those things that whenever people walk through that from personal experience, maybe the family member, that seems to be what brings up that conversation. We would encourage you all to be proactive in thinking about these things. And John, that's why we have our retirement blueprint, which there's four pillars to that. But each of those pillars, so investment, taxes, income, and then legacy, each of those pillars, we have plans that are built around your values and your goals. And then we simply utilize the tool that is money to ensure that your values and goals are achieved and you're able to live those out. And so when we think about the legacy aspect of that retirement blueprint, there's a lot that goes into that, right? Maybe helping pay for the grandkids' college or leaving money to family. But a big part of that is also caring for your health and your future care many, many years down the road. And so, John, with as it relates to long-term care and home health care, it's a topic that we've been covering a lot with folks. And a big reason for that is it is becoming increasingly more expensive to pay for home health care or a long-term care facility. The average inflation rate on the annual cost increase around the United States is about 5% a year for home health care and or a long-term care facility. And we're seeing the average monthly cost being anywhere from about $4,500 a month all the way up to about $8,000 a month for an average care facility. And so, John, when you think about just the continually increasing cost, how is that a risk as it relates to someone being able to live out their goals and values in their overall financial plan?
Yeah, at the end of the day, you really have to identify to say, what is the actual risk? So what does risk mean? Well, you need to say that's a risk to what? That's a risk to your goal objectives. So if your whole goal is, I want to actually live my life and spend every penny that I have, and and if I need health care, take care of that, and really leave nothing, either before I pass away or when I pass away, well, then that would not be a threat to any of your goals. But if you have a goal, say, hey, I'm going to take care of my spouse if I'm married, or I'm going to take care of a significant friend that I have, or if I want to have some dollars that go toward my as an inheritance to my children and my grandchildren, or I want to give dollars set aside as far as we have allocated dollars as far as for living a certain lifestyle into my 70s, early 80s, and the things I want to do is this: I want to live in a different part of the country. I want to enjoy time on these hobbies. I want to spend time giving charitably. And then all of a sudden you have a health event, and that takes a large amount of not just time, but a large amount of dollars. then all of a sudden, then those goal objectives can become not realized, and you may become a financial burden on people that you really wanted to bless. And so we take a look at cost. I mean, reality is you laid out some numbers there, Drew. And so we know inflation has just been running rampant the last 4 years in our country. And but how does it play out in the real world? And so some folks might say, "Hey, I'm just going to stay at home and I'll have someone come in and stay at my house and take care of me, a nurse or even a CNA." Right now, this is from real life things that we are paying for right now, or that we have clients that are paying for. In Central Illinois, the cost of 24-hour care is $30 an hour. So $30 an hour for 24 hours a day is $720 a day. If you have 24-hour care in home for a month, that's going to be $22,000 for a 30-day month. Over the course of a year, that's $260,000. That's in-home care. And so some folks say, "Hey, my spouse will take care of me. We don't need that." I can just tell you that the toll, if you look at the sociological toll on the caretaker, is actually higher than what the toll is on the person being taken care of. And so that's not a reasonable long-term solution either. And so, Drew, then you go into where you have facility-based care, and you're looking between $7,000 and $12,000 a month. Those are real dollars people in Central Illinois are paying. I was researching a facility up in Madison, Wisconsin. It was $18,000 a month for a base level of care, is a higher quality of care. And so, Drew, the cost is staggering. And so maybe you have $2 million set aside, and you're wanting to generate $150,000 of income a year between Social Security and your investments. That all of a sudden, then you're paying $200,000 a year for care, which is a very reasonable number to pay. $150,000 to $200,000 for care. On top of that, your non-institutionalized spouse is still living a certain lifestyle. You're not there. They're still going to need to spend $100,000 to $125,000. Now all of a sudden, we're looking at spending 15% of your dollars every year going to provide care. It's not sustainable, Drew. It eats into those dollars. And then if you're blessed, you make it out of the care. Now you have fewer dollars to give you the standard of living that you need. And if you end up passing away, those dollars are eaten up in your care. So, Drew, the risk is high. I've seen it be devastating for so many families. Their goals are not accomplished. What they really wanted in their heart was to bless others, their family, their kids, leave an inheritance. And that dream is gone. And so it's huge, Drew, man. It's unbelievable, the staggering tolls.
It is. It is. And, John, on the other side of things, we've seen some cases recently where folks actually did the proper planning ahead of time. And we've seen how that's greatly benefited, ensuring that their goals are actually achieved because they did put the time and effort in to have a plan to cover that specific risk. And so, one of the things, folks, we would encourage you, all of our advisors have been briefed on this conversation and are definitely capable and willing to walk through that with you as part of our legacy pillar. It's a conversation that likely some of them are going to be bringing up with you in meetings just to begin walking through what that looks like. But if we say anything today that just triggered a question for you, or this is a topic that you've been thinking a little bit about, but we just have not had that deeper conversation, I would encourage you to reach out to your advisor and set up a time, 15, 20 minutes, just to walk through things as it relates to your specific situation and to build those goals and dreams that you have. We would strongly encourage you to do that. There's some great solutions out there to make sure that this is taken care of and is covered, but your goals are also going to be able to be achieved in the long term. And so, John, with all that said, what's one thing that you'd like folks to keep in mind?
Man, you want to make sure you're doing planning for the good times and what you want to achieve, but you also have to have an honest assessment of the risk that's there. And oftentimes, look at risk as stock market risk and what happens if the our political risk. The reality is risk is all around us. And one of those biggies is our healthcare risk. And that's one we don't want to mess with. The cost of healthcare is actually going up by over 9% a year for the last decade. That's something we need to plan for. And there's some phenomenal tools and strategies to make sure you take care of that healthcare risk. So definitely do the planning and make sure you measure your risk properly.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, folks, look forward to talking to you all soon. If you have any questions, our team's ready to help in any way that we can. Thank you all for the time. We'll talk to you soon.